Hi there, Tad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies here with a little niche case study. This happened actually just in my living room. I was doing my weekend workshop called the Living Room Sessions. And I think we had 4 people there for the weekend, so a real intimate small group. And there was one woman who was sharing, or she was working on her niche, and it was tough because she does craniosacral work, plus a lot of other modalities. And she jokes, she says, I have more modalities than clients, which is actually not that uncommon in the holistic world. So she was really struggling with niche because, of course, so many modalities, you can help people with so many things. But I had her do a little chart of the symptoms that people might have. First, we made a list of what are all the symptoms that people might have that she could help with, and it was quite a big list. But I said, now we're going to make a chart of, one side, what are you most passionate about, and the other side, where do you feel most confident? So, of course, we're going for this top quadrant of I'm confident in it and I'm passionate about it. And basically anything in the other quadrants, or anything that was below the midline of passion, it was just get rid of it. And anything in this lower quadrant of you're just really not competent, get rid of it. So basically we were dealing with these two sides, like kind of over here, yeah. And there were a number of things. There was a concussion, car accidents, anxiety, depression, sports injuries, and all this. And she was looking at them, so I said, well, what do you notice? And then she wrote down a new one, and it was domestic violence. And I said, oh, would you be willing to tell me more about that? And she said, yeah, because women, particularly, in the case of who she wants to work with, but I suppose men too, but people have been through domestic violence, their nervous system is so jacked, they're so hyper vigilant all the time. They're carrying this trauma with them, and they can't let it go. So they're always on guard. They're always on the defense. They're always a little scared. And I said, did you go through this? She said, I didn't think I did until I thought about it just recently. And then I realized, oh, wow, that was an abusive relationship. And she realized she'd been carrying that hypervigilance, that fight, flight, fright, freeze, fawn sort of triggered reaction with her for years. And I could see how much it meant to her, to this thought of, I want to help people who've been through that to get their nervous system soothed again, so they can relax, so they can actually feel safe in the world. And so I asked her, I said, well, what are the top 3? And she picked, and that was one of them. Maybe concussions, car accident was the other. But I said, okay, if you're going to pick one to just focus on for the next 6 months, what would it be? And she picked that one, which I was actually glad, the domestic violence, because God, it's so needed. Sadly, it's needed, but it is. And what struck me about it, so from a personal level, thank God she's doing it. Because, again, tragically, I know people who could use it. So and what a blessing to have someone I could send them to who understands and could design a protocol and a process just for them, that tailored for people who are in that very particular place. We started talking about packages and what she could offer, and it's like, isn't there a book that, some books that might be relevant, that'd be very helpful for somebody coming out of that situation? Maybe there's some supplements that'd be really useful. Maybe there's some types of yoga nidra and yin yoga that could just help soothe their nervous. And she started nodding. So you could give them a basket of these things. And of course, this could be something that people could gift to other people, which would be really beautiful. Somebody who's going through that, and you can see how it's affecting them, and you can see they can't quite shake it. And so you say, look, would you be open for this? And you buy it for them. And it's a however many months protocol, and designed to really help them get to the other side. Oh, and it was interesting. She also said, but they would have to be in therapy as well, which I thought was a really brilliant filtering piece, really smart. And from a marketing standpoint, this is just clearer. It's easier. The word of mouth is going to be much easier on this, because now it's just, I know who I'm talking about. This isn't craniosacral for everybody in the world. This is craniosacral for a particular group. And of course, this could be done as a for-profit or non-profit. One could create a non-profit that would raise money to support people through. There's a lot of different ways or models for this. And anyways, it was such a beautiful example because it was her own life experience. It's something that's so deeply needed in the world. And there were so many ideas of how to craft something as an offer to these people that would be so that they would see it and say, oh my God, that's exactly what I need. So these are heavy things to talk about, but God, the world is a heavy place right now, and people are dealing with a lot of heavy things. And I wish, as you do, I'm sure, for the time when people didn't have to pay for these things, and the medicine person in the village was taken care of, and it was more gift and trade and exchange, and everyone looking out for each other. Boy, I'm just with you on all of that. And bless everyone out there who's trying different alternative economic models on these things. I do all my day-long and weekend workshops on a pay-what-you-can basis. And, I do what I can to keep things accessible for people, and I'm sure you do in your own ways too. And people go through some really horrific things. And it's a big thing to wonder, how do we keep it accessible for them? So bless all of you who are out there trying different things. Might it be that we all find our way forward, because it's a strange thing to feel like one is profiting from such intense struggles that people have. Wow, and there's a bigger conversation here about how do we make sure that our business and our work, it's not just dealing with the symptoms, but this is where one could partner with a nonprofit, where you're not just helping, you're being sustained by helping people going through tough things, but also there may be ways that you could partner with nonprofits or other movements or organizations that make it less likely that those things would happen. In a case like that with domestic violence, well, you could be supporting, let's say, a project that works with young boys and girls, helping them learn how to relate to each other better. You could be, maybe there's a women's empowerment, women's circle or something. It's helping women learn how to say no and set boundaries so it doesn't get to that level. Or maybe there's a nonprofit moving company that helps make it affordable so that people who are in domestic violence situations can move, because often they're just trapped because they can't afford the move. You get the idea. There's a lot of creative things that we could do that work on the level of a movement, but also might be able to sustain us as we all try to figure this out. Because we're all in this situation of a modern capitalist world where you need money. So, bless you all. If you have any questions or reflections on this, I'd love to hear them. You can post them below. And I think that's it for now. Take care.